Welcome to Infinity Reviews. Oh no! Oh my god! No way! Oh, it's Sabretooth! Oh, look at these fights! Alrighty, guys, welcome back to something we haven't done in a second, and that is a review for a film. And last night, I got a chance to go see Avatar: Fire and Ash, the third movie in the Avatar franchise, directed by James Cameron, aka Jimmy C. Listen, I enjoy the Avatar movies for the experience of seeing this on the big screen. And guess what? This movie did not disappoint me at all. Like, I'm watching this movie, and there was so many amount of times when I went, awesome. Like, I just said it out loud. I'm like, wow, that's so cool. And, like, it's the reason why I think these movies do so well. It's the visual experience you get with watching a film such as Avatar. Now, this is going to be a non-spoiler review since the movie just released worldwide last night. And I'll say this is not my favorite one, but I thought it was good. It was good. Now, we'll start off with the good parts about the film. Of course, the best part is the visuals. Like, it really does feel like you are transported into Pandora. And that's what I think that a lot of movies can't really capture nowadays, you know? Like, I think Avatar is so special because when you sit down in your seat and when the movie starts, right after that 20th Century logo and the Lightstorm logo pass, you're immediately thrown into the world of Pandora. And you're like, wow, this is visually stunning. I'm here with these characters, and it's a fun 3 hours and 17 minutes in the movie. Like, it's fun, but the visuals, I think, are the key takeaway for me, is like why this movie works so well. Now, another thing, there are actually some pretty good performances in here. I think I really liked Jake Sully a lot more here than I did in Way of Water. I felt like in Way of Water, it was more about the kids, which is not a bad thing. It's just, I think Sam Worthington, the Jake Sully, was what I really loved about the first movie, and it kind of felt like he was back center stage now, and he's going through this conflict where it's like, you know, he's a Marine, he's a soldier, and he doesn't know, he can't just express his emotions, you know, he's dealing with his son's death the best way he can, and he's really doubting Awa throughout the movie, and, you know, there are turning points where he starts to believe again, but how he has to become Taruk Makto again. But there's a line in here that I love. It's like where, you know, the water people are asking him, like, we need you to become Taruk Makto again. And Jake Sully gets, like, he's basically, like, I can't remember the exact line because I've seen it once, I've seen it a couple more times, but he basically says, like, when I'm connected to the beast, the bloodlust and the pain I want to cause is something I don't want to experience. I don't want to inflict upon the world. He says, I don't want to become the monster. And I felt like, oh, that's such an interesting thing to, like, you know, when he connects to the flame bird creature, when he becomes Taruk Makto, that anger that animal feels resonates inside him, and he feels that he just needs to destroy. And I love that sense that he does not want to become that person, and he wants to protect his family. And, like, the family really is kind of falling apart in the first half of this movie. Like, I'm gonna say that, like, they are falling apart, and it's like hard. It's hard to see because like all these characters are going through their hard times. You know, you go to, like, Neytiri, you know, who is trying her best to believe in the gods, and who, like, in the first half of this movie is just, like, failing at everything. She's failing to protect her family. Like, when the Ash people first show up, she fails to stop them, and she gets hurt badly, which kind of affects her for the rest of the film. Like, she's lost her father's bow, like, everything in her life. She's lost her son. Everything is coming down, and it does explore, you know, with Neytiri, you know, about, like, how she kind of feels about, you know, the humans. And there's this really great scene. I'm not going to get into much spoilers, but there is this one scene where she basically says what we're thinking, because, like, you see in the second movie that she has some animosity towards Spider because, you know, he's human, and also he is Korch's son. Also, you know, I think a part of Neytiri also blames Spider for the death of her son. And there's a thing in it where Jake and her are talking, and it's like she says like, I hate the humans, I hate what she calls them, I hate the pink people, I hate them. And then Jake's like, well, does that mean you hate me? Do you hate me? Do you hate your children? And she trips, says, yes, she does. And I think that is such important for the character of Neytiri, because Neytiri, like, in the first movie, we go to her, like, she like, dislikes the humans, but she, like, accepts Jake Sully. She falls in love with Jake Sully. And, like, in the second movie, she's okay with Spider hanging around. But, like, she's at a point now where she has suffered so much that she is trying to do something to blame, and Spider's one of them, and she associates Spider with humans, so she hates humans. And, like, there's that scene where Jake's like, you hate me? Like, do you still love me? And it's just, it kind of hurts. You're watching the scene, and it kind of hurts. And, like, it's sappy and dramatized, but, like, I think it's really important for the character. And, of course, Neytiri. There is a fight scene with Neytiri, which is one of the coolest scenes, I think, in the Avatar movies, in my opinion, where basically she goes in as a one-man army and obliterates everything. I'm not going to spoil it, because you got to see it. It is awesome. It's like, Neytiri is like one of the most badass, I think, movie characters ever, because, like, you look at the last movie, she singly takes on the entire, human army, that human ship all by herself through her rage, and she kind of does that a little bit here again. And then we go into what's happening with their son who's still alive, Loak. So he is on, like, basically a guilt journey, because in the first half of this movie, he says in the beginning of the movie, like, for my entire life, I will blame myself for my brother's death. And that just tells us so much about the character. Listen, I wasn't a fan of Loak in the first one. I thought he was a bit, like, complaining. And I thought there were good moments with him. But this movie, in the beginning, I really liked that he has his guilt. And that his father, like, he's trying to connect to his dad, but his dad even blames him for the son's death. And, like, Neytiri basically tells the Jake, like, listen, you keep acting like this, you keep trying to close yourself off, you're gonna lose this family, you're gonna lose your son. And, like, I think that's part that, that, like, at a moment I thought Jake was okay with that, because he was so mad. And I think the journey that Loak goes on, I think, is very important. How, like, in the end, he's able to, I don't want to spoil it, but he unites some sort of, people to come together to fight. And I think it has a pretty, Loak, he was not my favorite, but very, very good. Now, the biggest standout, in my opinion, Stephen Lang as Miles Quaritch. Great. And, like, what I've loved about what they've done with Quaritch is that in the first movie, Quaritch, the human version, was about, like, going under orders, serving the hierarchy, serving the company. He's a company man, and he's, like, doing what has to be done. Second movie, we get a little bit of that, but then second movie kind of explores, like, oh, he's got this son. He's got a son, Spider, who's, like, Spider, very important in the movie. Became one of my favorite characters in the movie, so I'll talk about him next. And in this film, Quaritch, you see him kind of going on the journey Jake was going in the first one, where Quaritch, he is developing feelings for the Na'vi. He's developing feelings, at times it feels like in the movie that he doesn't even want to kill Jake anymore. Like, Jake killing him in the first movie, that's not important to him. I think for Quaritch, it's all about reconnecting with his boy, like, protecting his boy, because at the end of the day, he's a father. Even if he's not Spider's legit dad, that he's a clone, he's still his father, man. He's still his father. And I think that is an important thing for the character. And listen, when he goes to the Fire and Ash people, when he goes to the Fire and Ash princess, or priestess, what you want to say, it's like his crazy goes into, like, her crazy. And like, these Ash people, they're psychotic. They are psychotic. Like, listen, like I said in my review, I was disappointed by them. That doesn't mean that I thought they were terrible. There were just some things that I kind of wish they went the extra mile. But what they did with the Fire and Ash people, I thought worked really well for the film. It kind of made them, like, the first, like, really, like, big threat, I feel like, to the Avatar franchise. Like, having an opposing tribe who doesn't believe in what everyone else believes was such an interesting thing to do in the film. And I think to transition to that, we can go in now and talking about the main fire and ash person we see in the trailers who says, "Your goddess has no dominion here." One of the best trailer lines in a trailer I've seen in many years. One of the best lines, period. And this is one of the most psychotic Avatar villains we've ever had. And listen, I love having these psycho villains who just want to see the world burn, because you can't redeem them, you can't do anything with them. There is no redeeming thing about this villain. How she just wants to watch the world burn because she saw her people burn, so she just thinks, oh, the rest of the world deserves to burn as well. And I think that I really, really liked. Because, the one thing I really don't like about, what they do in sequels, and, maybe even after that, is that they always try to, oh, there's some redemption in the villain. We can redeem him. But I think the thing about a villain is that I love that when there's a villain that cannot be redeemed. And they introduced a cool concept with her as well, as with her, the thing with the tail thing, and they she has a cool thing. I'm not gonna spoil it, but that's a pretty cool thing they kind of added to that. And she is she's crazy, psychotic, and that's what I loved about her. And what I also loved is that, her and Cords kind of have a thing going throughout the film. And my fear was oh, they're gonna have where Cords kind of turns on her, but I actually feel Cords and her actually were in love. They were in love with each other. I think he wasn't playing her. He actually fell in love because he found someone, I think, that matches his crazy. And she found someone that matches his crazy. And they kind of had a mutual respect for each other. And I think, that's what I love. That she was just a pawn. That she was, someone who was making the real Cords come out. And that's what I loved. And I love that James Cameron didn't go this whole villain redeeming arc. Even though if Cords went on that redemption arc, which I think was deserved. I think Cords' redemption arc was deserved. But I'm glad that, in the end, Cords knew, what was going to happen to him. And also, with the stuff with the Ash people was so interesting. I do wish there were a bit more, graphic. For me, I kind of wish there was some more graphic things going on with the Ash people. Now, the last character I'll talk about is, of course, Jack Champion as Spider. Now, you've seen in the trailers, they introduced a new concept, is that he is able to breathe on Pandora. So one of the central plots of the movie is that the RDA, the company, is trying to get Spider so they can experiment on him, create and maybe a drug or something to make humans be able to breathe on it. And the whole thing is that Jake and Neytiri are listen, this is the biggest threat to the Na'vi people that has ever existed. Imagine a world where these conquerors can breathe our air, who they can wipe us out, and they can eliminate the Na'vi from this world. And that's a scary thought. And there is, I'm not gonna spoil it, but there's a moment where Spider saves Jake in some capacity, and he's with Neytiri, and I think a lot of the movie, they see Spider as not their child, even though Spider, grew up around the kids who really saw Jake and Neytiri as his father and mother figure, but Neytiri never really saw him as a son, and Jake, accepted him, but I don't think Jake ever thought of him as a kid. And there's a moment where Jake's about to do something, and even Neytiri starts to feel bad about it, and you think, I honestly thought Jake was going to do this thing to Spider, and I was like, oh no, Jake, don't, you don't want to become the monster. And Spider says these words to him, which is oh my god, I felt something what Spider said in that moment, and what he said was it felt oh, he's always wanted something. The only one thing he's wanted is a family. He wanted to be part of Jake's family, and in this moment, I think Jake and Neytiri finally accept Spider as their kid. And that, literally, I was I love that. I loved it. And it was earned. I felt that was earned, and I loved that part. So Jake Champion, with that moment, made me this is a great character. This is a great character. Now I've kind of talked about all the good. There's a lot of good. I liked a lot of it. I'm going to talk about some of the bad stuff. Listen, you put this next to the second movie, this is the exact same story. Listen, you know, it's the exact same ending, exact same thing that happens. And I was like, okay, I feel like, you know, it was like, okay, I feel like I'm watching the same movie over and over again. And that's the same with the first one, too. And then, like, the second thing I kind of disliked was the runtime. This movie should not have been 3 hours and 17 minutes. I think if you cut, there's a lot of things I'm watching, I'm like, you can cut that, you can cut that. I think you cut most of that. You can maybe make this like a 2 hour, 2.5, maybe 2 hour and 50-minute movie. This movie did not need to be 3 hours. I think, you know, it was 3 hours because, you know, James Cameron wanted to be 3 hours. And that's like my little gripe with it, that this movie did not have to be 3 hours long. And when you think about that, I think that's why this has a 71% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think that's why it does this, because I think usually, like, I'm okay with a length of a movie when it justifies the story and the length time. Like I'm gonna go back, Avengers Endgame, 3 hour movie. That amount of time justifies every moment on screen. The 3 hour runtime justifies the story. I go to Oppenheimer, that movie is almost nearly 3 hours long. Everything in the movie justifies what's happening in the story, and it needed to be that long. I'm watching this, I'm like, this didn't need to be 3 hours long. It didn't. There's a lot of things I felt like could have been cut. There were storylines I think that did not need to be focused on in here. There's like a character that comes back from the original Avatar, which I'm like, he didn't need to come back. He didn't need to be here. And then like some of the stuff with like the general that we saw in the last movie, played by Nurse Jackie. I'm gonna call her Nurse Jackie because I can't remember her name. I'm like, I don't get it. And then they kind of still focus on the whale plot from last one. I'm like, okay, we already covered this in the second movie. Why are we focusing on this whale plot again? I get it's an important issue about, you know, poaching and all that, but we already covered this. Why is this again a central theme in the film? Like, I think the length time did not have to be this long. There were some story beats I think that should have been cut, but at the end of the day, I had a good time. I had a good experience watching the movie. I recommend you go see it. Listen, go see it with your friends, go see it with your family. It's a great movie to go watch during holidays. You'll have a great time. 3 hour experience in the theaters, and all I can say is that if you're going to see it for the first time, go see it in IMAX. IMAX is the way to watch an Avatar movie. IMAX is the way to watch this movie. But guys, thank you so much for listening for our first movie review we've done in like almost a year, because I kind of stopped them for a little while because they weren't getting as many views as I wanted. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Leave your comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.